When my father passed away, he left me his house, the same one I grew up in. As I was moving in, my childhood neighbor, now an angry old man, walked over and said, "This house should have been ours. Your dad promised." I politely told him there was no such promise, but he smirked and muttered, "You'll wish you never came back." Within a month, my water line was cut, my trash was dumped on my porch, and someone egged the house every night at 3 a.m. I knew exactly who it was, but proving it would cost me everything. My dad didn't leave me much when he passed. Just the house I grew up in. Not money. Not stocks. No life insurance. Just that house. It was a 2-story place in Riverton, Illinois, a small, middle-of-nowhere town most people never leave. The kind of place where the gas station clerk knows your family tree and the waitress at the diner remembers how your mom liked her coffee. When I pulled into the cracked driveway after the funeral, the house looked tired. The shutters were peeling, the lawn was overgrown, and the front step wobbled when I put my weight on it. But it was as I was unloading the U-Haul I saw him. Dennis Cray. Old Man Cray. He'd been our next-door neighbor since I was 6. Back then, he wasn't angry. He and my dad used to fix cars together in our driveway. My mom called him rough around the edges but decent. His wife, Maureen, used to bring us lemonade in the summer. But now, Cray's wife was long gone. Cancer took her years ago. Cray's once black hair was fully gray, his face weathered and angry-looking even in rest. He walked up my driveway, slow but deliberate. "This house should have been ours," he said, his voice low and bitter. I paused. "Excuse me? Your dad promised Maureen he'd sell it to us when you moved out. Said he would." We waited. I shook my head, keeping my tone polite. "I'm sorry. Dad never mentioned that to me. He left it to me in his will." Cray's eyes narrowed. "You'll wish you never came back." He turned around and limped back toward his property. I stood there holding a box labeled kitchen stuff, heart thudding harder than it should have been. But I brushed it off. "It's just grief talking," I told myself. "He's old." Confused. I was wrong. By the end of my first week, little things started happening. My trash cans were knocked over twice. I figured it was raccoons. Then the water pressure in the house dropped. A plumber came out and found the water line in the yard had been severed. Not corroded. Not cracked. Cut. Clean. A week later, I woke up to the sound of eggs splattering against the front door. It was exactly 3 a.m. I ran outside. No one in sight. Just the smell of raw eggs baking in the morning heat. I didn't call the cops at first. I wasn't raised that way. Small town rules, you work it out face to face before involving authorities. So I went over to Cray's front door the next morning. He opened the door, shirtless, a beer in his hand despite it being 10 a.m. "I'm not accusing anyone," I said carefully. "But someone's been vandalizing my place. If you know anything, you think I'm throwing eggs like a goddamn teenager?" He barked. His breath stank of stale beer. "Get off my porch!" He slammed the door. By week 4, my trash wasn't just knocked over. Someone dumped it directly onto my porch. The egging happened every night at exactly 3 a.m. My garage door was spray-painted with the word liar in thick red letters. I called the police. Filed reports. The young cop who showed up, Officer Daniels, I remember his name because he looked like he was barely out of high school, said, "Without camera footage or an eyewitness, it's gonna be hard to press charges." He advised me to set up cameras. I bought 2 Ring cameras and installed them on the front and back porch. First night after? No egging. Second night? Nothing. Third night? The egging resumed, but someone stayed out of the camera's view. The eggs hit higher on the house, aimed to avoid the porch cams. Whoever was doing it knew where the blind spots were. Then came the moment that changed everything. My golden retriever, Duke, 13 years old, the last real link to my dad, got sick. Violently sick. I rushed him to the vet. After some tests, the vet told me, "He's ingested rat poison." My yard was fully fenced. Duke never left it. The vet was gentle. "I'm obligated to tell the authorities, but proving someone intentionally poisoned him is difficult." I held Duke's head as the vet gave him an injection to ease his pain. Duke died that night. The next morning, I didn't call the police. I called my cousin Nate. Nate isn't a lawyer or a cop, but he used to work private security for corporate clients. He's sharp, patient, and has zero tolerance for bullies. I told him everything. The harassment. The water line. The eggs. "Duke, I don't want him arrested," I said. "I want him ruined." Nate nodded once. "Then let's make him hang himself with his own rope." Nate didn't trust the Ring cameras. He installed 4 trail cameras around the property, hidden in bushes, trees, even under the neighbor's shared fence line. They were motion activated, had night vision, and stored footage directly to encrypted SD cards. "People look for obvious cameras," Nate explained. "These? He'll never see them." Night 1, nothing. Night 2, nothing. Night 3, 2:57 a.m., motion detected. The footage showed Cray's unmistakable silhouette lurching toward my house with a carton of eggs under his arm. No mask. No gloves. No attempt to hide. We had him. Nate went further. He listed my house on Zillow as for sale by owner, making sure it was publicly viewable but marked sale pending due to severe neighbor harassment. The description said, "Owner forced to consider selling due to sustained property damage and threats from a neighbor." We also put a real, "for sale," sign in my front yard. The gossip spread through Riverton like wildfire. 2 days later, a realtor contacted me. Someone had made an anonymous cash offer, way below market value. Through some digging, Nate had a buddy at the realtor's office. We found out who submitted the offer. Cray's grandson. They thought they could bully me out, scare me into selling, then buy the house for pennies. Nate set up one more trail cam aimed directly at Cray's garage door. That night, we caught Cray not only egging the house but returning to his garage and opening it. Inside? Buckets labeled pesticide. One had a strip of masking tape with Duke written on it. It wasn't just vandalism anymore. It was premeditated animal cruelty. We called the police. This time, we handed over video evidence, timestamps, and motive. At 4:12 a.m., the next night, Cray was arrested. Charges included criminal trespassing, property damage, animal cruelty, attempted intimidation. When they searched his garage, they found more than eggs and pesticides. They found a notebook. Inside were handwritten notes. "Break the water line. Trash the porch. Kill the dog. Force him out." Cray's grandson tried to hire an attorney. The problem? His employer, a local contractor, fired him the moment the harassment story hit the town gossip mill. Nobody wanted to be associated with them. The DA offered Cray a plea deal. He pled guilty to avoid a lengthy trial. He's now serving a 3-year sentence, with parole eligibility after 18 months. His property? Seized to pay for legal fees and restitution. I bought it at auction. Had it bulldozed. Turned the land into a memorial garden. I planted roses where his garage once stood. After the house next door was bulldozed, the neighborhood went quiet for a while. People stopped making eye contact when I walked into town. Some thought I'd gone too far. Others thought Cray got what he deserved. No one said much to my face. Except for one person. Cray's grandson, Tyler. About 2 months after the demolition, Tyler came by while I was working in the garden where Cray's garage used to be. He stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, face tight with anger. "You think this is over?" he asked. "I think your grandfather's actions finally caught up to him," I replied, wiping dirt from my gloves. Tyler stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You humiliated my family. You think people are going to forget what you did? My granddad's sitting in jail because you couldn't let go of some eggs and a water pipe. I stood up fully. Your grandfather killed my dog. He destroyed my property. He tried to scare me into selling my family home. I have nothing to apologize for. Tyler smirked. Maybe. But you've made some enemies in this town. And they don't all wear handcuffs. I thought it was an empty threat. But then, my mailbox was smashed again. Someone loosened the bolts on my front steps. I nearly broke my ankle. My rear tires were slashed while I was inside the grocery store. The police were sympathetic but said the same thing. Without proof, it's your word against theirs. Even Nate was starting to think it wasn't Tyler directly. I think he's got others doing it for him, Nate said. Friends. Old drinking buddies. Maybe even a contractor crew who owe him favors. Around this time, an unlikely person knocked on my door, Rebecca Malloy, who lived 2 houses down. A widow. Mid-60s. Quiet. Kept to herself. She handed me a flash drive. I don't like what Tyler's doing. My husband used to run security at the grain mill, and we still have cameras on the side of the property. They catch part of your driveway. The footage showed a truck pulling up late at night. 2 men in hoodies got out and started loosening the bolts on my front steps. The truck was registered to Tyler's best friend, Jared McCaffrey. I took the footage to the police. But Riverton PD hesitated. Jared's brother was a deputy. Conflict of interest. So I went higher. I contacted the Illinois State Police and the state's attorney's office. They opened an investigation. Quietly. Meanwhile, Nate and I installed even more cameras. We didn't tell anyone. Not the cops. Not the neighbors. 2 weeks later, those cameras captured Tyler himself sneaking into my yard, this time with what looked like a bottle of lighter fluid. Intent to commit arson. That was the final straw. We called the state police immediately. Instead of arresting him right away, they set up surveillance. Let him think he was getting away with it. 5 days later, Tyler and Jared showed up again at 2:45 a.m. This time, with 2 more men I didn't recognize. One carried a crowbar. Another had a small red gas can. State troopers moved in silently, and caught them red-handed before they could light anything. They were charged with attempted arson, trespassing, conspiracy to commit property damage, violating a restraining order. Yes, I had already filed one. Just when I thought it was over, the Riverton Town Council got involved. Tyler's uncle sat on the board. So did Jared's cousin. Suddenly, I started getting notices from the town inspector. Your garden fence is too high. The shed on your property doesn't meet code. Your house paint color violates historical guidelines. It didn't. They were trying to bury me in fines and force me out through bureaucracy. Nate said, You need to stop reacting. We need to go on offense again. And we did. I filed a civil lawsuit against Tyler, Jared, the 2 unknown men, and the Riverton Town Council members for harassment, negligence, and malicious prosecution. But that wasn't all. Nate had another idea. Let's find out how deep their corruption goes. And who's funding it. Nate started digging into town records while my attorney, a woman named Laura Wexler from Springfield, handled the civil suit. What we found shocked even me. Turns out the harassment wasn't just personal revenge. Tyler and Jared's families had big plans. They wanted my property and the empty lot where Cray's house had been. Why? Developers. A Chicago-based developer offered them a quiet deal. If they could clear out both properties, they'd sell the lots together for a new apartment complex. Big money. The town council members were promised a slice of the profits. That's why they buried me in code violations. That's why they turned a blind eye when the harassment started. I wasn't just standing in the way of old grudges. I was blocking a payday. Laura filed for a temporary injunction against the town council. It froze all fines and prevented further inspections until a judge could review the evidence. The state police provided reports from the criminal cases. My trail cam footage and Rebecca Malloy's videos were submitted as evidence. At the hearing, Laura didn't just argue the civil case. She exposed the development deal. She called it what it was, a conspiracy to harass and force out a homeowner for profit. The judge, a no-nonsense man from Springfield, not only approved the injunction, he ordered a state investigation into the Riverton Town Council. By the end of that summer, Tyler was convicted of attempted arson and conspiracy. Sentenced to 5 years. Jared took a plea deal, 2 years. The 2 other men, both out-of-work contractors, got 18 months each. Cray, still in prison for the earlier charges, was denied parole after letters from me, the state police, and Rebecca described the ongoing harassment. The town council members under investigation all resigned or were forced out. At least one faced bribery charges. But it wasn't all clean. During the investigation, my own decisions came under the spotlight. The fake Zillow listing? The baiting? My lawyer warned me. If the defense can show you lured Cray and Tyler into criminal acts, they might argue entrapment. It didn't work for them. But the court found that while I hadn't broken any laws, I had escalated conflict using tactics that risked harm. As a result, the judge reduced the damages payout I was supposed to get in the civil case. Instead of hundreds of thousands, I received enough to cover legal fees, repairs, and some compensation, but not a windfall. I wasn't the hero. I was just the survivor. I kept my father's house. The lot where Cray's house stood. Still my garden. Rebecca and I built a small community garden there. Locals plant vegetables and flowers now. The property is no longer a battlefield. And every year, on the anniversary of Duke's death, I plant new roses. Some neighbors still avoid me. Some have come around. The developers never returned. The apartment deal collapsed. In Riverton, people say I won. But this wasn't a win. It was a warning. If someone tries to take everything from you, standing your ground won't make you a hero. It'll make you a target. And even if you survive, you'll pay a price. I did. But at least I can sleep at night. In my home. Where my father once stood. And nobody, not old grudges, not corrupt men, not greedy developers, will ever take that from me again.